Hello and welcome to NDA and Hivestack present out-of-home strategies in an omnichannel environment. As we all know, out-of-home is kind of changing in front of our face on a daily basis at the moment, driven by programmatic, driven by huge global scale and the targeting and measurement capabilities that programmatic media offers. It's become a different medium. So we're going to find out what's really going on with two experts in this space. We'll spend about the next 30 to 45 minutes looking at the biggest opportunities, the biggest challenges, and what needs to be done for the industry to really deliver on the promise of programmatic out of home. So let's meet our two expert guests. First of all, Lee.
Yeah, sure, a pleasure. My name's Lee Cutter. I'm Vice President for Hivestack in UK. I also look after emerging markets as well. I was actually the first person in Hivestack in EMEA, starting in March 2020. Of course, that was a fun time to be in this industry. But we've had a lot of success along the way. But predominantly before that, I haven't been in ad tech. It's kind of like a new venture into it. I'm an out-of-home guy. The posters have been a lot of my industry, about my time in my career. I began in agencies and then moved into media sales roles. So Metro initially, but then into more out-of-home roles. About 25 years. Believe it or not, I know I don't look like it, but 25 years.
You look so young.
Thank you.
Brilliant, fantastic.
Perfect. And I'm Shanil, Commercial and Partnerships Director of Hawk UK and International. If you're unfamiliar with Hawk as a business, we are a cookieless omni-channel platform. I've been at Hawk now for, 8 years since we launched into the UK market back in 2015, 2016. My role entails working closely with all of our partners, be that our amazing agency and brand partners that we work with, fantastic supply partners such as Hivestack, data measurement tech partners, to make sure that they're getting the most out of their working relationship with Hawk, but also to drive innovation through collaboration by bringing new and innovative solutions to the market via all of the technologies that we work with.
Fantastic. And I think innovation through collaboration, that could sort of sum up this market. So
Absolutely.
That's what's going on at the moment.
Yep.
So let's get into it. Programmatic out of home is changing in front of our eyes. And omnichannel has become it's become a reality rather than something that was talked about a lot, maybe like 5 years ago. So let's talk about what programmatic digital out of home can really offer to an omnichannel buyer, an omnichannel campaign, the consumer at the end of the omnichannel work.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, happy to. I mean, I didn't say too much about Hivestack as a business actually to start with, but we are the kind of global leader in kind of full stack services for platforms, so DSP and SSP. So we've got a good view on the whole sector. And I guess the out-of-home industry as a whole, we kind of looked at the omnichannel party with envious eyes for a number of years. Obviously we believe we're a kind of 4 or 5% share of revenue sector, but 20-25% share of day. So digital dollars have always been a big thing for us and trying to move into that space. But I think for us to earn a kind of like to be a valued guest at the party, we need to do a number of things, which I think we've subsequently done. So it's things like supply, which I know we'll get into a bit more detail. But there's been so much investment over the infrastructure. The ecosystem has just thrived because of that. More partners, more screens, just higher quality. More buyers as well, obviously, which is really key. Such as Hawk and multiple network agencies, independent agencies, other omnichannels as well. So we've created this ecosystem now, which is thriving there. But also, I think the biggest point is kind of data, I guess, as well. Because data hasn't always been the best in our sector, but certainly that's improved. What I will say is that even though omnichannel is relatively new for us, kind of the mobile and out of home convergence piece has been around for quite a while. Obviously there's the geotemporal aspects of that, retargeting, mobile device IDs, etc. The mobile powering, we talk about it kind of omnichannel, kind of like marketing through that, and omnichannel shopping, virtual storefronts. So that's been a big thing, and I think we've proved that for a number of years. But obviously, there's so much more we can do, and that's what we're here to try and build on.
Fantastic. Shanil, same question to you. What's programmatic out of home delivering? What additional benefits is it delivering from omnichannel?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that out of home as we see it, programmatic out of home as we see it, is a fantastic reach driver. So just to give you a quick evolution of Hawk. So we started as a mobile technology. We stepped into omnichannel in 2017, 2018, when we started opening up supply across audio, across programmatic out of home, across in-game and across CTV. The digital out of home kind of evolution and kind of adoption from agencies really started, as Lee mentioned, after the pandemic in kind of 2021, 2022. For us, since then, it's been that really kind of trusted, premium, reach-driving channel, which kind of most media plans really start with at the moment. So when we get a brief from an agency and when we're looking at an omni-channel response, kind of all those channels that I talked about in terms of mobile, audio, et cetera, all get tied back to out of home. So how is out of home starting that kind of conversation with an audience, and how are those other channels tying into it? And I think for us, it's really about how out of home is used to drive that reach, to make sure that there's scalable solutions across all of those different channels. Recently, however, we have started to see, more and more quality data, more and more quality measurement, which is bringing out of home from being exclusively an upper funnel channel into that mid and even lower funnel that we're seeing now as well. So we're getting lots and lots of briefs from agencies saying, look, we want to run a digital out of home campaign, but because of your amazing measurement capabilities that you have across out of home, how can we tie that to performance? Can that be tied to, drive to store activity? Can I tie that to my search? And we'll probably come on to this and kind of the work that we're doing with Captify and Samba and others in this space, but we're really kind of decoupling measurement and data from those trusted data sources, twinning it with that really premium reach that we have with out of home. And all of a sudden we have a channel that was formerly only upper funnel, now supporting that mid to lower funnel as well. So lots of use cases for digital out of home and lots of ways that it can drive efficiencies across all areas of the media plan.
Yeah, I think historically it's been a case of you can be one or the other. And I think we love a label in the industry, and out of home is great for brand fame and that kind of piece there. But as you mentioned there, we are now through data being able to move through that, and we can be accountable. I think, which is great, and move more to the addressable space. So we are seeing briefs which still want brand fame. They want that kind of awareness, and we can do that in more of an effective way, an efficient way, but also just kind of that proof and real kind of business outcomes in the real world. So I think convergence of that again, that's earning our spot at the table.
Definitely, it's amazing how quickly that's changed as well. Even in the short amount of time that we've been in the programmatic out of home space, the measurement that we were deploying in the early stages of our out of home campaigns to where we are today are kind of poles apart, and that's only in the space of 3 to 4 years since we've been operating in that space. So rapidly evolving and really exciting to see where that's going to go in the future.
So it's good news all round. You sort of can't move the industry press for reports and surveys coming up, proving how much money is being spent in the sector and how much more is to come. So there's obviously excitement and it's obviously working, but what are the biggest challenges for brands that now have an omnichannel outlook on life and they want to now to include programmatic digital out of home within it?
Well, I think there is often a kind of a drive for that one size fits all kind of accountability. Every element of it must be, the kind of standardisation of that kind of space. So out of home is still learning, I think, with some certain areas. I'm sure we'll come on to some very specifics there. But, the kind of standardisation is a big thing. We're doing work with the IAB, with other areas to try and get that there as well. I think a lot of the hurdles we're still having to kind of go over and prove still a little bit in the market with the challenges. So we often get asked about scale, for example. In the UK, with my SSP hat on, we've gone from kind of 2 partners when we launched to 34 today. So, scale isn't necessarily an issue anymore. We kind of covered a bit of data there as well, but data comes in many forms. Mobile location data fits a lot of how we do audience targeting, but also for triggers and moments, which again I think we'll cover later. That's really, really key. So look, there are going to be challenges still as well, but I do think the high quality aspect of it, the premium nature of it, those are all the things which I believe on the channel marketeers want. But I don't think marketeers exist without being on the channel marketeers anymore. Likewise, in agencies, you don't get many kind of channel planners anymore. So it is all there for the taking. I think often we're the new kid, so we have to prove ourselves. So I think that's just what we're doing on an ongoing basis. But we feel very well equipped to.
It's true, single channel planners not really a thing anymore. Shanil, same question to you. It's obviously working, but what challenges exist for advertisers?
Yeah, and I think similar to what Lee was alluding to there, it really is probably the standardization, the way that we shape the narrative around out of home and how that ties into those other channels as well. So we frequently get asked, what's my unique reach going to be for this out of home campaign? And unique reach doesn't really exist across programmatic out of home because it's a one-to-many channel and it can't be quantified in the same way as other channels. But because that channel is being planned by people who've previously had a programmatic hat on from a digital display perspective. It's just an education piece that we need to, we are going on as an industry together. And again, we've moved really far in a short amount of space of time on that. So we're getting to a point where those questions aren't being asked. But again, at the beginning of the journey, those were the sorts of questions that we were getting. Yep. Standardization in creatives. So we'll often get a suite of assets over from an agency or a brand, and they'll say, look, we want to run these on out of home, but they might not be relevant for the screen that they want to be running on because they're standard desktop assets or something like that. So it's about how we take those and how we make them more relevant. But again, I think that kind of common denominator across all of those channels is really starting to be seen now. So you can measure across all of the different channels that we execute through our platform. You can use the same data segments across all of those different channels. You can use the same location targeting. So the challenges previously have been that digital out of home exhibits some traits that are quite different to other channels, but it's about finding where they tie together and looking for solutions amongst that's really starting to drive that forward and really kind of bring out of home into that omni-channel dream.
I think if I can just add to that, what I find interesting from my own observations is we're fusing two worlds, aren't we? Really, the kind of pragmatic and the traditional out-of-home world. And we've had to absorb, I guess, new metrics and new KPIs. So, out-of-home is very much reach and frequency. Interestingly enough, in the programmatic space, reach and frequency is not always a metric that's used. We're actually building that into our DSP at the moment, our ISSP. So we're doing all that kind of stuff at the moment ourselves. But, things, there are other metrics there, such as attention, which have come to the fore now, which are really important ones. But, marketeers are asking for brand safety, viewability, relevance. And again, those are things we've had in our back pocket a little bit with out-of-home. But in a programmatic space, we're able to do that more and more. So, brand safety, we've got all the kind of the whitelisted screens, and we can have look at certain sectors and prohibitions, etc. But ultimately, the kind of the creator approval sits with the publisher as well. Mm-hmm. So brand safety is paramount. So they know their environment's better than anyone. If it's outside of school, if it's wherever else it is, certain advertisers can't run on it. So I think we've brought that to the table as well. So we've learnt, I guess, and fuse those metrics.
So this rapid growth, you're both talking about the need for education, the need for metrics, standardization, etc., has similarities with other channels seeing the same sort of growth, like CTV and audio. Are you seeing those similarities? Absolutely,
yeah. We would say that out-of-home audio, CTV, exhibit a lot of similar traits in the fact that the way that they're traded, for example, they're not traded in the same way that traditional programmatic display and programmatic mobile will have been traded through open exchanges, etc., etc. There's very curated premium supply sitting within a few SSPs and a few publishers, which make that journey from DSP right through to publisher a bit more of a shorter one than perhaps that we see on digital display and mobile. Again, when you look at CTV, it's a channel that can be linked to location. So, it's a static screen, very similar to what out of home will exhibit. So looking at kind of high value geos or geos of high intent, for example, CTV and digital out of home follow a very similar narrative when it comes to that. And we're seeing more and more demand from agencies and brands to how they tie together their digital out of home and audio, whether that's through audio retargeting. So looking at people that have been around a digital out of home screen at a certain time. And this works for mobile as well. And that's where mobile and digital out of home work really well together. But I think everybody accepts that that's the truth when it comes to mobile and mobile and out of home.
Yeah, you always think mobile and out of home first.
Other two, yeah, exactly, that tie nicely together. But don't discount these other channels. They also tie together nicely with out of home as well. And they do exhibit a lot of similar traits, even though, audio on the surface, there is no visual that goes alongside that. Whereas digital out of home is a highly visual medium. You can still tie together with creatives through the messaging, etc., etc. So yeah, lots of similarities as well as differences and nuances that need to be factored into any plan that an agency or a brand wants to execute. And that's why hopefully working with experts like both of our businesses helps brands to do that.
You've seen the same thing, Lee, and I like this idea, especially of the kind of the synergy of different platforms like CTV and audio rather than just mobile helping.
Yeah, no, I think look, we can't be in a lane. We have to really kind of reach out and learn. We always say lessons from the other side, and we speak to colleagues and the people we know in other areas. But I think the premium nature is a really interesting one, because I think in out of home, digital on its own has always been just seen as premium. It's digital out of home anyway, it's screens. But if you look at how connected TV do that and how they curate deals and how they package, we certainly learned from that. And again, it's working with partners such as Hawk, We can throw out curated deals we think are going to work, but we work with their clients and kind of like come across ones which we think will actually be bought. So, for example, rather than using one publisher who have screens in gyms, we've got 3 or 4 perhaps, and we can combine that to make a London gym package. We can also look at well-being venue types as well and combine that as well. And that was never done in out of home before, so we're certainly learning that kind of area. We're still very much in test and learn kind of phase as well. We're doing that. Again, I still think we can learn from other channels there as well. So there's quite a lot going on. I mean, audio, digital audio. My previous life, I was at Global as well, and we launched DAX when it was an audio exchange. So, I think there's some real synergies there. You're still out of home generally when you're listening to it. It's quite a personal environment and personal relationship with your headphones, and then it's public space TV there. But again, you're in a certain modal mindset, and I think it's quite interesting how you can delve into that, look at certain categories, and then make it even more contextually relevant. So there's lots of learnings to go on, and I think hopefully every side can keep learning from each other.
Yeah. The other key thing, sorry, just to add to that point from Lee, is that all of those channels that we've talked about are also cookieless by design, right? Very similar to out of home. Audio has been cookieless by design. 80% of digital audio streaming pretty much happens on a mobile device, and we know that mobiles are largely speaking cookieless environments. CTV, there's no cookies that exist in the CTV landscape either. So actually, if you're looking at the way that data is applied, the way that attribution exists on those channels, you're speaking the same language pretty much across all of those different channels. And again, that's where out of home really exhibits a lot of similarities with those other channels that we mentioned, and why it's perfectly and seamlessly fitting into that omni-channel mix.
I think also omni-channel, like we've talked about gym packages, and sometimes don't realise that out of home screens are in so many different environments. You get screens in offices now, office blocks and gyms and stuff. So I guess that makes it even more powerful to be part of an omni-channel campaign, omni-channel view.
Yeah. No, I absolutely think so. Again, it's one of those things. Previously, we talked about roadside and rail transit maybe, and then something called premium enclosed environments, which was everything else. And again, we've learnt venue types. And I think when I joined and I looked at our platform, it was like, what's a venue type? Is it a North Americanism? But no, it's something from the digital space. So we learnt from that. There's nuances in each of those. And again, half of our job is to, work with Shanil and his team there to kind of like do a little bit of education. Again, we work with a lot of different partners there, but there are nuances. There's lots of interesting things you can learn from. It's contextually relevant anyway because you're in that space before you put any more layers on there as well. So again, I think that's a big thing that we've got to play. And just going back to a quick point you said as well with the cookieless. I know you can't have a podcast without talking about the cookie.
We got this far. What's that, 16 minutes in?
I think that's a record. But we always have a bit of a wry smile because, in out of home, there's never really been that digital journey anyway, historically. So you don't actually have that in play anyway. So we're always like, actually, contextual relevance is what we do. So, I think naturally we're well placed anyway before kind of programmatic brought everything else into the mix also. So yeah, we're kind of, I think we're sitting quite smartly here.
Definitely. And Justin, to your point around kind of, the ubiquity really of out of home screens, there's a lot more environments that, we didn't know before we entered this space that you can serve into, right? I was in Chicago recently, got into a taxi, and there was a screen in the headrest of the person in front of me. That's an out of home screen that we can tap into in North America, and we don't have that in the UK. But it's only when you go abroad and you start looking at the global opportunities that exist and the way that America doing things. APAC is a very, very strong out of home market as well. I'm sure they're doing things that we're not doing over here. All environments that we can learn from, and no doubt will be part of the UK ecosystem in no time.
Well, I'm pleased to say, Shanil, we do have taxis as of any site now. So we've got a new entrant there that have screens on the top.
In the UK?
Yeah, in the top, Drovo.
Oh,
yeah.
Really?
So that's a really, really new entrant to the market. So, look, I mean,
it's almost like we planned that. It's brilliant.
Almost. We didn't. But it is fresh. They're coming all the time. I mean, I was speaking to guys the other day. They've got screens in golf courses, golf driving ranges. A really clear audience there. So they're coming through all the time. So yeah, it's just perfect for certain clients.
Well, I think, look, another thing that sort of dominates the interview discussions is attention. It's come to the fore, and actually now we can prove it works, and it's not the nebulous thing it once was. And I guess in this environment, there's nothing better for attention than sort of digital out of home programmatically.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that? Is that conversation helping?
I think attention is obviously one of those new metrics we're kind of adapting, but I always think with out of home, it generally does gain attention just by its nature. But I think creativity as a whole, anyway, is one of those things in out of home that can be done very badly, can be done very well. I think, it's almost like, you need to go back to basics sometimes with it. And I think what a key point for this is we are bringing new advertisers, new buyers, and new creative agencies even into the space. So sometimes we just need to remind what makes a good poster using terminology, digital screen. And it's no kind of like, if you think about how a mobile screen is, it's a D6, it's a portrait screen. Likewise, D6, yeah. Kind of a D48 is a landscape for kind of like a desktop ad or mobile ad, an online ad. So there are kind of like basic things to remember there. And I think creativity always is evolving. So we did the world's first anamorphic delivery on programmatic as well. So, I know it's a bit stunty when it gets like that. It's not true programmatic. But again, we're just evolving that and looking at new environments, new ways of doing it to make that kind of 3D effect work. So I'm not saying for attention you need to be, and you need to do that, anything as special as that. But I do think out of home works very well from attention perspective.
Mm. Yeah, totally agree with that. Obviously, the screen itself lends itself to being a really highly attentive medium. Similar to Lee, we're doing some brilliant stuff in the creative space as well. We have a creative studio at Hawk that helps brands to execute really effective campaigns and really effective creatives across all of the environments that we offer. So all of the different channels, but out of home obviously being one of those key ones. When it comes to attention itself, we're actually building an attention product with JCDecaux at the moment, which is really, really interesting. It basically uses their visual impact measurement tool that they have to predict attention on an ad before it goes live, so that we can optimize creatives to driving the highest levels of engagement and attention through heat mapping, etc., etc. So really interesting project that we're working on there, and something that we'll be able to kind of bring to market and talk to brands a little bit more about in the coming weeks and months. And some brands are already using this at the moment. But yeah, attention is a huge buzzword, a huge thing that we're looking to drive through these ads. And again, something that Lee's mentioned there, it kind of ties into the way that we still build mobile ads, right? And it's really easy to complement what we do on mobile with the out of home assets, but there's also nuances between that as well. I think one thing to note is that it's probably one of those channels, or one of the few channels that we've talked about previously, where the user isn't directly in front of it all the time. You have to remember that they're maybe walking past it, right? So how are you going to grab attention as someone's walking past the ad? It's not like a mobile ad where it's directly in front of you, a CTV ad where it's directly in front of you and you're consuming it kind of face on. So these are all the things that marketers and marketeers need to consider, but something that, through our creative studio and through learning and testing, something that we're definitely getting better and better at, and something that will drive attention moving forwards.
It's just really refreshing to hear you, the Hawk, are investing in that kind of studio.
Yeah.
Because, you can have the best ad campaign in the world, the best setup in platform, and then if the creative isn't there, it can really fall down, and kind of metrics will not report back. So I think you guys putting that in, because creative is, like, we often see a TV still used in an out-of-home or worse still, a press ad with so much copy, when really you should have 6 to 8 words, So that kind of resource and investment is really good to hear.
Definitely, it's been a huge part of our ethos since day one. So we've had that creative studio in the UK since 2015, 6 designers in the UK, and we always thought, and we continue to think, that a lot of the times programmatic targeting or clever targeting is quite separate from creativity. And programmatic, in its old sense, was all about right person, right time, cost efficiencies, etc., etc. But the conversation around creative really wasn't being had, and that's why we built the studio in the UK, to marry up that clever targeting with clever creatives. Because at the end of the day, as an industry, we talk about this stuff every single day. But when I'm walking down the street, what do I look for? I look for a clever creative. I don't look for clever targeting. That's almost a byproduct of something that shouldn't be seen. So that's been a huge part of our ethos since day one, and a key reason as to why adoption of out of home has kind of exponentially grown through our platform as well. When we first launched into the out of home space, a lot of the advertisers and brands that we were working with were saying, look, we really want to run out of home. We really want to step into this space, but we don't have the budget to be able to build creative. And again, it's just helping brands, eliminating those hurdles, increasing that adoption. And it's something that we feel that we offer that's very unique to our platform.
What's happening with dynamic creative? I mean, it's sort of the opposite of that press ad shoved in the billboard you mentioned.
Look, I think it's a huge part of the sun and the opportunity as well. And in truth, I don't think we've done it as well as we could have done as an industry, as a sector. But it's certainly something we're putting a lot of investment into. There are nuances, again, there always are, but every kind of media owner operates in a slightly different way, or every SSP does. But DCO, I mean, absolutely, we talk about contextual relevance. That is one of the two clear routes that we talk about for that. So, look, we've run some great campaigns. I think we would like to do an awful lot more. I think with that, we've only really scratched the surface. So it gets quite techy and quite geeky, which takes me out of my lane a little bit as a commercial kind of guy. But yeah, look, it's a real work in progress there. But I think from a DCO angle, we also talk about moments as well, which I think is a good part to talk about that. So, we say you can either you can run an ad and change the creative depending on where it runs. So we've done ads for M&S and it tells you where the store is, for example. That's great. Or you can do it based on an external influence factor, whatever it might be. So historically, weather, we've done that to death. And I think, as I always say, as an out of home industry, we've dined off that way too long.
That has been talked about.
We have. We're not winning Cannes Lions for that anymore. But it is. Look, the weather is important for business. The temperature goes up a degree, things change, likewise go down. But what we're talking about doing now is really innovative. So if you allow me just a couple of examples. So Crystal Ski, for example, did this kind of weather targeting, but it was destination weather. So they wanted us to talk to people in London, in Soho when it's really, really kind of like not necessarily a nice day here, but it's snowing in the Alps. So you're thinking about actually, I need to book that ski holiday. So it sounds simple, but it's actually quite tricky to do the moment somewhere else and then trigger that there. So that's a really nice one. We've also done one for Brewdog as well, which is really, really innovative. They had a product called Hazy Jane, which was one of their beers, and they wanted to only be active when it was hazy. So you created a completely bespoke moment based on that. And that was like, when the sky, air pollution and quality and all this kind of stuff and wind. So very, very bespoke. But there's so much more we can do here. So, DCO and I guess moments, we call it just simply that now. We've only scratched the surface of that. But, if you think about the power of, the World Cups or the Euros next year, England scoring a goal and you owning that moment across the UK, so contextually relevant, so powerful.
Hazy Jane is one of my favourite ales. My fridge is full of it, by the way.
Expect a delivery.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's talk about the sort of challenges or what's going on in the measurement of effective campaigns. You're all talking about this amazing technology, making campaigns more effective, making campaigns better creative, but what's going on with measurement?
Yeah, we like to think that we've been at the kind of forefront of measurement for quite a while now across all of the channels that we offer, but especially across out of home. Through Hawk, we have, a cookieless omnichannel suite, cookieless measurement suite that we can measure lots of different attributes through. So real-time footfall, obviously, you can do that on out of home, and we can do that in real time through our platform. Brand lift, we're working really closely with the likes of new partners, so Captify being one of them, Samba being another one. But that Captify partnership allows us to look at the effect of out of home and what that's doing on search. And that's really, really interesting because I think there's been a long-standing narrative in the industry around wanting to prove the kind of tie between out of home and search, and that's what we're really trying to do at the moment. We ran our first campaign using that search uplift at the beginning of this year. It was for a major global sports brand. We managed to take their share of search in exposed geos from 3% right up to 21% versus competitors.
So that's walking past a billboard and search on your phone for something.
Yeah, organic searches.
Wow.
Yeah, organic searches. And I think that's a really true indicator of intent because it's not something where you're exposing someone to a brand lift and saying, have you heard of this brand? Have you seen this brand? It's about monitoring the searches in those areas and what they're doing on an ongoing basis.
That's where the power of data really comes through. I think my own experience, I walk up the escalators in Oxford Circus. I'll often top of the stairs then get my phone and find something else.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that. And I think that measurement is absolutely there across out of home. I think previously when we entered the space, there's a lot of question marks about how you measure out of home, how you measure the efficacy of what we're doing across all the different channels. But I think that as an industry, we're in a really, really strong position now to be able to look at various different metrics and what out of home's doing, and also how all those different channels are tying together to be able to drive the same outcome. And ultimately, that is the omni-channel dream, isn't it? Looking at what your mobile's doing, what your out of home's doing, what your audio's doing. Not to say that one channel's better than the other, because every channel is different and is used for different things. But just to be able to quantify exactly, and rationalize why they're on the plan together and what they can do together. And that's a huge part of the work that we're doing at Hawk at the moment.
The omnichannel dream is a beautiful phrase.
Yeah,
I dream about every night.
But I think what a point to say that, I guess, it's a classic case of rising tide floats the boats, because I think the more partners doing this in this space, the better, right? And you're right, it was a hurdle initially because that kind of a cause and effect wasn't always there. But you're right. But our bread and butter has been brand lift. It's been footfall. If you've got a point of a POI you're trying to drive people to. Like we did a campaign for New Look, and literally it was it's quite a sizable national campaign trying to drive in store. And obviously we could do a custom audience because we could look at which devices were observed in New Look, which devices were observed in their competitors, and then basically through again using mobile devices, you can see when were they laterally observed in a store, and the kind of figures on that were great. I mean, it was between a 63 and 73% uplift depending on which metric you looked at. And it's great. And you have a control and exposed sample, so we can share the methodology and all that. So that's a really great one. The thing I'd really like to get into, and it takes brave clients to do this, is more of the first party data stuff. So
yes,
EPOS data. We talked about that forever, but app uploads as well. So or downloads even. Sorry, that's the kind of thing we'd love to get, because we do get campaigns for that. You can have your Ubers and door drops in Canada are a big campaign now. But unless you get the data from the client, it's difficult to prove that.
Yeah.
And I love the kind of stuff you're talking about with kind of search. So at the moment we don't have that product as such, but what we do is we can do a moment based on search. So it can be social sentiment. So if a certain part of London are talking positively about going to a certain part of the world, we can serve ads to that part there. So that's a slightly different way. It's not measuring it, but it's certainly taking that data. But yeah, I'd love to get involved in more of the kind of measurement piece for sure. But we definitely moved it forward significantly.
Yeah. And it's really exciting to see where that space is going to go, as we've kind of alluded to throughout the course of this. We're a very short while into this long journey, right? And we've moved a very, very long way in a short space of time. We're seeing more and more measurement coming into the ecosystem. We're certainly not at an end game. There's lots that no doubt both businesses are working on to really push that measurement space forward, and that's why it's super, super exciting to see where it's going to go.
Speed of development in this sector
it's crazy. Yeah. Well, I mean, like we talked about, you mentioned there briefly, but visualization, again, it's something which, out of home, very visual, but the platforms exist, whether it's Hawk or ourselves or others, you have visualization of people, audiences moving around, and also right through to our measurement. Our kind of measurement dashboards are within platform. So you're not getting a 70-page PowerPoint kind of like dipstick or whatever. You're getting that dynamically. So again, I think that evolves it. That brings it more into a programmatic space as well. So I think little things like that really help.
Yeah, the real-time element of it is absolutely crucial, right? Footfall studies have existed for quite a while now, but traditionally they've been delivered, after a campaign, and that's great to know, and that's a good starting point. But if you can start to optimize it in flight and start to move budget across different channels, move budget across different suppliers, look at what's driving efficacy of the plan, that's where marketers' budgets can really, really start to stretch, and we can really be really efficient, especially in these hard economic times. It's more and more important that we are able to justify the inclusion of these different strategies and different channels on plans, and no doubt that's something that brands absolutely want to see to make sure their marketing budgets are working as hard as they can.
Yep.
Let's talk. One thing we haven't talked about much is the media owner side. I would say most media owners are pretty advanced in this space, some more than others, but the speed of change there is also frenetic. So what does programmatic digital out of home offer them? What's the biggest opportunity for media owners?
Yeah, well, I think digital dollars, if you speak to them from a commercial point of view, is a big one there as well. But also, I just think being more efficient with how they're selling. So we have within our SSP, we've got various tools. So yield optimization, for example, we offer that through kind of header bidders and ad servers as well. So we can make sure that that if they're operating with multiple SSPs, they are getting the highest price, unified auction, all this kind of stuff, which will come down the line. So we're commercially certainly making their lives easier and hopefully making them more money. That's what we're there to do, right? And because you're not buying a loop anymore. Out of home traditionally, believe it or not, was 1 in 6, and it just runs out no matter what time of day it's running there. You can be a bit dynamic. But here with that, so therefore you're eliminating a lot of wastage, and you're, over a course of a universe of a point of time, there are impressions in there that you're just picking up. You're not necessarily going, I need to bet 1 in 6. It might be 3 in 5. Another time it might be 1 in 100. But when that exact time, that impression is right, you're serving that. So you're being efficient, and also you're eliminating that wastage as well. So that's a key one from a commercial, and then operationally as well. I think we're just trying to make their lives easier. Initially you do come in and, we have conversations with media owners, and sometimes it's like, wow, this sounds a bit too complicated. So there's a lot of hand holding, but that happens both sides, supply and demand there. But I think operationally we're hoping to make lives easier, and then, commercially, obviously, improve yields and bring more new money in.
I think the new money point is a really important one. It's probably access to advertisers that may not have considered out of home previously, that might be working with technologies like ours, executing mobile campaigns, that then go, oh, okay, cool, we're working with you on mobile. Let's activate some out of home around this as well. And previously, that might have been something that they didn't consider because of the restrictions or limitations or cost, or having to book a certain amount of time in advance. Those hurdles are being eliminated, and ultimately for the media owners themselves, there might be new advertisers that are picking up alongside, the yield management and everything that Lee's just talked about there, access to brands that maybe wouldn't have considered out of home previously.
Yeah, and we also talked about deals as well, actually. Sorry, just to jump in there, but we talk about always on deals as well to make lives easier. And it's something which it's lessons from the other side, always on deals, curated deals, other ways to make money there. But also a big one that I didn't mention there as well is global. So we talk about, I've talked about UK supply here as well, but another great example I can share from Hawk as well is that, we talk about outside in buys, it's international buys essentially, but we're now active in Hivestack in 35 markets globally, and all you really need is you're a partner of ours. You just sign a new bit of paperwork to get you in different currency, and you open up the world effectively. So during lockdown we had a partner in Stratford activated a campaign for a luxury advertiser, a significant campaign over 5 countries and 3 continents.
Wow, okay.
Just themselves doing that.
Wow.
And Shanil, your team obviously were in Japan for 3 words.
Yep.
And it's not easy to navigate a market like Japan. It really is very, very different. And we're able to help with that. And 3 words, we're able to be active here. Delivered photography, all sorts of stuff. So it does open up new media owners, not just UK ones, but and also outside in money into the UK for those media owners. Yeah. So it's just, you can have the best sales. I mean, I've worked in sales in out of home for years. You can have the best sales team in the world, but the likelihood you're not repping a kind of a Turkish DSP. You probably aren't. Or in boutique digital agencies. So more new revenue comes from different sources.
So what would you like to see when it comes to media owners? What's missing? What aren't they doing? What's needed?
Gosh. I'd probably focus on the things that they are doing really well. And I think that from an out-of-home perspective, one thing that I've noticed, and we as a business have noticed since we stepped into the out-of-home world, is that it's an incredibly collaborative ecosystem. So, the media owners work really closely with the SSPs. The media owners work really closely with us. So we have a great relationship with our media owner partners that we work with. We're always looking for new solutions and building new solutions together. SSPs and DSPs working really, really nicely together to collaborate and to bring new innovations to market. Other data providers that we're working with, decoupling their data and pushing it into our platform and allowing us to use that across different channels, out of home, being one of the core ones, because they themselves don't have the appetite to step into that space. It takes a lot of money and a lot of dev work to be able to step into the out of home ecosystem. So for us, it's been a really positive story. I don't think there's anything that we necessarily change. More programmatic inventory would be great. Releasing more to programmatic would be amazing. There's definitely the demand there to be able to do it. We are constantly being asked by our advertiser partners, can we get more of this in this area? Can we get more of this in airports? There's really premium locations that they want to be tapping into. But one thing that we've definitely noticed is that collaboration since we've entered the marketplace. So I think it's really, really positive.
Yeah, good to hear.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I'd say 2 things. It's tweaks. I mean, there are tweaks there because, again, this is still quite new to a lot of teams there. I think having different skill sets coming in is really important. Having dedicated resource to programmatic helps from a media owner point of view. So I think little tweaks there, DCO elements there, and just kind of processes. But I think the big one's sustainability, really, because that's a really key one, because that one's coming up an awful lot, rightly so, in this day and age as well. But I think out of home actually is leading the charge in this space. And we haven't always shouted about it.
No, so why do you say you're leading the charge?
Well, I mean, for example, there was a PwC report which is just fresh out with Outsmart, actually, where I think it's just under half of all money that comes into out of home is reinvested into the public infrastructure. It's media for good. We will talk about that.
Yes,
so it could be anything from defibrillators in screens there. It could be obviously for classic out of home for printing on recyclable materials, using green energy. There's even what media owners are now actually installing a kind of air quality or air kind of purification above the screen, so in that direct vicinity.
Really? I didn't know.
Yeah,
that.
there's all sorts of bits and pieces going on, and also just like, supporting local charities and businesses with ads and free ads. So there is a lot going on there. And also, I think when you look at carbon footprint emissions, don't forget digital out of home is one to many. It's not one person on a mobile, for example. So it's not as bad as, yes, they are beautiful screens. They do need power, but they are, you're getting a lot of impressions for that one kind of like one screen.
Definitely. I think one thing that I'd probably revisit in terms of what we can do to push forward from a media owner, SSP and DSP perspective, so all parties within that chain, is probably the verification conversation. Something that I know
that doesn't come up that often in these discussions, really.
No, yeah, it's not a particularly sexy topic, is it, verification? But something that we get asked from our agency partners and advertiser partners, and that's because they're used to being able to verify across all of the other channels.
Online,
exactly, like third-party tags and just making sure that things are playing out where and when they're meant to be playing out. It's something that we get through SSP reports, so it's already available. But having third-party verification, no doubt, will be the next evolution of what we see coming into that space. And I know that media owners, SSPs, are working really, really hard on that. But that's definitely something that we're keen to support from our side as well.
So there's demand for that.
Absolutely, because on an omni-channel media plan, we're third-party tracking audio, we're third-party tracking mobile display, we're third-party tracking video, we're third-party tracking CTV. So when it's almost just part of the rhetoric that when you're getting sent tags, it's like, oh, what tags do I give you for digital out of home, or how do I verify my out of home? And we have the answer to that. We can get that through the playout reports, we can get that through the DSP reports, we can get that from the media owners themselves. There's lots of different ways that we can do it. It's just being able to have that coming over to us at the same time as everything else would probably help to increase confidence even further in the out of home space.
I think it's without question. I think if we want standardization and we want to be viewed on the same level, it's one of those. It's on our to do list. It's been there for a while, and I think we're still working through. There are multiple vendors. Which one, demand side and supply side, where's it going to sit? So it's absolutely being worked on. It's one of those to watch, I think, watch this space.
Coming soon.
Yes.
So look, we've covered a lot of ground, and the passion for the sector is obvious from both of you. But I'm going to end by asking you one question, and it's tough because it's one thing. I want to hear the one thing in this space you're most excited about. Look, we're coming towards the end of the year, maybe for next year. It could be a technology, initiative, or whatever, but let's start with you, Shanil. The one thing you're excited about. I'm
going to break the rules slightly here and give you two, unfortunately, just because I can't separate them both. For us, it's enhanced data, enhanced measurement. And that's what we've really been working on over the last couple of years. So looking at best in class, best quality data that we can continue to drive forward and increase efficiency on, the application of data to our campaigns. And how do we measure in new, innovative ways that tie together with other channels? So there's lots in the space that excites me. Sustainability, we're talking about some really, really powerful topics here. But from an application and from an activation standpoint, data measurement, really, really key to what we want to do moving forwards. And that's what I'm really excited about next year.
Great answer.
If you broke the rules of that, I was going to break it and do Power of Three. But I would say I would like I just think how can I work this work to one? I think the ecosystem needs to be used more efficiently and effectively and widespread. So what I mean by that, look, moments, I talked about moments, I'm passionate about those. Anyone who listens to this and wants to talk, please do. But we've only scratched the surface of that. There's so much we can do. Having those always on deals triggering when certain things happen. Absolutely possible, but also I think just I think if you look at channel DSPs, that's grown since the pandemic hugely. I think Omnichannel now, it's the time to thrive, and that with that involves outside in buys, not just domestic buys. So it's in such rude health and a real fertile area for everything. So ready to grow.
Amazing. Well, yeah. I've taken from this really. It's a medium that's having its time in the sun. It's a medium that also is sometimes hard to get your head around. I think we were talking about the Omnichannel journey and how different screens in gyms, etc. That's something that I wouldn't often think about. So it's a medium with incredible potential. So I'd like to say thank you so much, my amazing guests,
Welcome.
Lee and Shanil. And
very
that
much.
was NDA in association with Hivestack, out-of-home strategy within an omnichannel environment. I've been Justin Pearse, the editor of NDA. Thank you so much for listening.